Hello. All right, I'm going to go through all the settings to make sure that... Can you hear me? Mute. Sweet. I think it actually worked, that I don't have to spend a ton of time going through all of this. But I'm going to pull up some assets real quick because I am going to share some things with you guys. This is going to be a fun one, especially while we're waiting for people to join. Wow, we had 6 people on here and then people left. I guess, I don't know. So we've been doing a lot of work on basically the old design document, and because we were having some continued meetings with a lot of our partners, and so we are very, very excited about what's coming up, what we're working on, what that means for you guys. And we'll talk a little bit about, hopefully we can have a little Q&A here, because I think it'll be really important in the conversation to recognize. So we got, I've been looking at some of the data from the beta test on the mobile app, and I know that a lot of you haven't necessarily had access to the VR, but I am going to make a little bit of an announcement here. Man, we don't have anybody on. I kind of want to wait. I guess everyone expects me to be a little bit slow to this. I'm gonna go to all messages. Let me see if I can. I was hoping for they can rewatch. Yeah, you're right. They can rewatch because we're recording these now. So one of the things that, well, I will let you guys know this. Before, we were just opening up to the VIP tier to be able to have a preview of the Oculus. We're working with App Lab right now to get that published. So it's so funny. I keep saying, let me just kind of give you guys a backup. So much going on. So with the completion of the beta test, there's been a lot of questions of when is the app going to go live. We are currently working through all the making the mobile app and the VR app available for everyone. But I will caveat that because what is happening right now is we are building the back-end system. So although the apps are being worked toward being on the Google Play Store, the App Store, and the Oculus Store, hopefully very soon. I just don't know how long the approval process takes. We have to make sure performance hit its numbers and everything else, but we're actively going through it. Yeah, just so you know, all the feature set is done on what we're doing on the first bit of the publishing. But what isn't live yet is the entire back-end system that allows the Dragon to be perpetual. Because for many of you that do or do not know this, the world that we are building is a perpetual world, right? So whether you're in the app or not, or interacting with your Dragon or not, the Dragon, the world, and everything else is still going, right? These things exist. They exist whether or not you guys are in there interacting with them. And so we're just making sure that that system is all dialed in. The good thing is because all the functionality is done, once that backend system's done, we actually had an updated conversation with AWS and AWS Gaming. There's even the possibility of even having AWS anywhere. They were interested in being one of our fulfillment partners, which means that if you're in the XR application, you could just click a buy now button if a new species is being announced and everything else, and Amazon would be the fulfillment partner. But that's just a little bit of a side note that could be very, very cool. But with the back end system, obviously we're working to get that live so that your dragons continually grow, and that we're monitoring it, and that we can make sure that we're getting the data that we need. Even the apps, I know that some of you were saying that there's a lot of lorem ipsum. Of course, we were just making sure that the functionality was working. Those messages are going to come with a lot more interest. We've actually already got the update done where the push notifications that are coming to your phone, because that was another thing. Push notifications can only happen because the backend system isn't in full operation. There's a couple of things that have to happen, like with the weather, the heart rate, and everything else. It has to ping the weather app and then hit the database, examine the app or the dragon to see if it's in a critical state, and then push that notification to you guys so that you know what's going on. And then that way your push notifications that you're going to get are going to be iconed so that you'll be able to see, oh, it's a heat temperature thing, it's a heart rate thing, it's a awake or asleep thing. And they have little icons in there that kind of showcase that. So like even when they pull up on the messaging, whether it's Android or iPhone, you'll have unique icons, backgrounds, and stuff like that that are going to give you an idea of what's going on with your dragon. So I'm really excited about that one too. But yeah, I wanted to get into, hold on. There's a little bit early Q&A, and why not just start off with it? I'm gonna look at this question and see. If I was hardcore enough to incubate all 3 of my eggs at the same time, would I need 3 phones? No, you don't. So actually in the toggle menu, you can select in your settings, you can select as many eggs as you want. So I know that there's a lot of you out there that are raising several dragons. We've had actually quite a few pre-orders for pygmies and for clone dragons. So that's, yeah, you guys are ambitious. I love it because I expect us to only have a few more, meaning when every new species comes out, you got to buy 2 or 3 depending on how many rarities are in those species. But yeah, that's one of the things that the moderator team is working on. Dice specifically is working on some things with me to get actually our species published, because we're starting to pull the veil off of everything and what we're doing. There's no reason to really hide it. We are hoping to plan for another breed being released this year, if not 2 or 3. But depending on the events, we're definitely trying to make them special when we do release them. There's a really good chance that we are going to be doing that inside VR as an exclusive. And if you can't be in VR, then to be able to watch the live stream from the VR, like we're doing now on a recorded, but a live stream, we'd be doing it from the bazaar or the marketplace inside the Dragon Realm. But yeah, there is. I even saw a mention of somebody hoping that there's an orange. And then there's a black and silver. All the colors are being taken care of for sure. There isn't like a solid black one yet. I'll just share that. Not that I know of them. I'm trying to think of it. Yeah, not that I know of. There has been some variations of it, but one of the long breeds is an orange and yellow. Little bit more on those kind of those colors, and then the Harlung is I'll just say furred, if you will, harried. Um, anyway, so one of the things that I wanted to bring up in this conversation is because what we are working on right now is kind of the symbiotic relationship. Here's an update to the lore, if you will. So one of the things that after spending so much time inside the realm, the reason why dragons have opened it up is because of our access to science and our ability to utilize science. And in trade for what we have in the scientific knowledge and some of those things, they have magic, right? So there's magic in the realm. A lot of you are familiar with it. It is the binding mechanic that we are working on, and that is getting expanded. So what that means is this: when you think about what you're raising your dragon to do, who you're raising your dragon to be, and who you are planning to become yourself as a writer or a trainer, the symbiotic relationship or the parallel relationship between the dragon and you, it will start to uncover so many different things. So I will let you guys know this binding will be affecting almost everything in the world, which means man, I'm trying to think of a linear way to do this without just jumping all over the place. We've talked about this a little bit before, strategically planning on the types of dragons that you want to raise, and not just for the breeds or the colors, but for their classes. And this is why I'm going to talk about this a lot today, because although that some of you have wanted to be, whether it be a vet or a trainer or a breeder or even a warrior, a fighting class dragon, all of these things have different basically selections within the classes. And we all know that mountain skulls, well, maybe we don't all know, but an update: mountain skulls are fire breathers. The class that is available for a mountain skull is a fire breather, an armored tank, or a high altitude flyer. And I'm just going to share with you guys kind of a little expanded view on this, because if you guys have some ideas on gas, stinging, swarming, deep diving, earthquake, supernatural, climate control, high altitude, wind, magic, projectiles, this is kind of the expanded list. I've never really shared this with you guys before. But if you know of something, and you have some suggestions about classes of dragons that you would like to see that is not included in this list, please share with those on Discord. We'd like to know what those are, because the classes of dragons, every single one of the breeds that we release is going to fall into this category. So they're going to either have multiple, like the mountain skull, or they may even have one. Now, the cool thing is even the pygmies has a class, right? So we've talked a little bit about, I haven't given the name of the pygmy dragon that has been released yet. We've been playing with a couple of names, and maybe we should do a little bit of poll on it. But I think that, I don't know, Dice, you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong, if the name has been decided. But I'm gonna sharing with you the classes of dragons, right? And you say, hey, I want to fly to the end of what is this? The ends of the realm. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the big things, right? To be able to fly on the backs of your dragon. But I want you to think about this. So, like, if you pick your dragon to be a fire breather, there are subclasses within that it can be. So you've got projectile, you've got spray, flame throwing, explosion, high heat. And kind of think of that for those of you that are Avatar fans, The Last Airbender, not the Jim Cameron movie, but just like waterbenders, bloodbenders, the kind of different subclasses of bender. Same thing with fire bending or metal bending. It's not just earth, right? And it's not just one particular thing, but if you want it to be a fire breather and you know that you're interested in, let's say, combat, and you want your fire breather to be able to do projectile, that is a very subset or specific sort of plan of action that you would need to do with your dragon. So one of the things that I will share with you guys is that, like, even to be a fire breather, you have to prepare the dragon, especially at an elite level. You need to prepare your dragon in the fetus stage. So you're going to have to play with temperature ranges that make it predispositioned, if you will, to be able to accept even higher heats than it's already dealing with without damaging it. And the difficulty in that, and I'll just kind of share this, is that if you're going for a certain sex of dragon, whether it be a male or a female, and you also want it to be a fire breather, those could come in conflict with each other. And they could also come into a space where you're worried about whether or not the health of your dragon is going to be okay. And these are the types of things that when you start to think about the strategy or the way that you're going to raise your dragon and the things that you want to do with it, also how it coincides with the type of rider that you're going to be or the type of trainer that you're going to be. So, as some of you are saying, hey, I'm going to be a flyer, I'm going to go and just explore the world. You might want to think about even a high altitude flyer, right? Because now you can get to places in altitude that you don't have to encounter other dragons or other animals or danger, right? Because you can fly above it, which also means that you might be able to access different resources that nobody else can get to. And so this is where that kind of strategy comes into play. Who are you going to be as you make your rider progression? Who's your dragon going to be? And for those of you that have multiple dragons, you may have multiple different classes or subclasses that you're utilizing. Because the way that that we are designing this, it is encouraged to co-op play, whether with your own bundle of dragons, or whether or not you reach out to the community and you start to develop your guilds and your relationships with people that you can, oh, so-and-so's an armored tank and so-and-so's a fire breather. I'm a high altitude flyer. So if we combine our forces, we can go get some of these resources that are otherwise impossible to get. And then we can take that, split the bounty either in the marketplace or use that in the crafting solutions to be able to create diets and foods, which will then enhance your classes and subclasses of dragons, as well as, being able to trade in the marketplace for rarer items or trade with your fellow dragon riders. So this is it's really a big part of the journey. For those of you that are looking to just have fun with your dragon, don't worry. You don't have to spend an overwhelming amount of time thinking about how you want to just hang out with your dragon, pet your dragon, love your dragon. But for those of you that are looking for that deeper level, it's there. And it's there from the beginning of this thing. And so, the more questions that we ask, at this stage, the better off that will be. We're looking obviously at publishing a lot of this stuff, but we have talked about many times before, making sure that you're reading emails and blogs, and when we get some of the podcasts published and when we do some of the other things, there will be hints. There will be ways to do it. And we also will have the annex or the library inside the realm, which will allow you to check out all sorts of knowledge. And so looking at the way that even binding infuses into that, just as you were to get a rare resource, if you were to cook it or prepare it and then you use a binding cast into it, could have enhanced abilities for your dragon that may be temporary, that may be longer lasting, or that may be just part of the dietary need for it to become an elite level class dragon. So I'll let you guys sit on that. Ask any questions that you may have. I'm going to go through this. There are some questions here. So can fire breathers do different types of specialty spray, fireball, high heat, etc., or will that be more determined by the species? Yeah, so if they are a fire breather and these are the subclasses, they will be able to do those things. That's a training regimen, right? It's a training and diet and growth regimen. So I look at it kind of simply this way. Like if you're raising an athlete as a kid or as an animal, a dog, or let's say, being able to jump, if it's a jumper, you've got a long jumper, you've got a high jumper, you've kind of got one of those acrobatic, like run up a wall, then jump. But those are, it really is based on the diet, and it's based on how you've trained or tempered the dragon to be able to master any one of those things. So if the class of dragon, the classes are determined by the species, but the types of subclass is determined by the trainer, if that's a clear way to do it. Okay. Good deal. And so thinking about it from I don't know if I even have it in here. And so I don't want to just go into this because yes, there's a nature element to it too. Sorry, you're seeing my mind map. I'm just kind of scrolling through this right now because I know that I wrote some stuff down. Oh, I think that I will share a little bit of this. Let me see here if I have player user. Oh, you can't see what I'm looking at because I have to shut this off, because if I'm going to share this screen, I have to change this. So let me click on this. Okay, I'll pull this up because this will be another interesting. Let me zoom this in so that you can see it a little bit better. So kind of to start off, what we've really started looking at from a rider progression is 3 different classifications with many subclasses within that. And so you can see here that you have a warrior, right, or a fighter. And under that, there's speed, combat, protection. And again, this is just kind of our loose sort of categorization or organization of the data so that we can manage to put it in the database properly and manage to have the developers understand how to actually execute the creation of this. But then craftsman or a maker. And under those, you have a cook, miner. Even in miner, you still have, I would say, even subclasses: blacksmith, trader, extractor, farmer, and then you have a trainer. And under trainer, you have a breeder, dragon specialist, or a whisperer, medic and vet, a healer. One of the things that we're, at least I'm kind of, the craftsman, like an alchemist, whether or not that goes into the cook. But this is like my idea. The alchemist is somebody that is an unbelievable knowledge, like has unbelievable knowledge in binding and the magic system. Because like I said, the magic system will be able to be mastered similarly to like levels of martial arts. For those of you that have not done the VR, which is most of you, which, by the way, I'm going to segue on this. If you do have an Oculus 3 or even a 2 and you would like to try this, I think we'll open up a place, either a Google form or whatever else, that you can submit your Oculus ID, and I will get you on the tester. We were going to do some of the things like we were doing prior, as far as, with the testing tiers and some of the VIP tiers. A lot of people were just using that to get eggs. We can still do it that way. If there's really an appetite for first access, then we can get more organized that way. But I'm just letting you know that, because there's going to be an expanded edition in the VR it's basically gonna have what we call a binding dojo, for those of you that want to go in there and start to learn forms. And the way that the mechanic is actually designed, there's a preview of it currently on the Oculus, is that the moves start off pretty loose, and they get fairly accurate. And the more accurate you get, the more powerful it can become, the more precise it can become, the more enhanced it can become, the more things that you can affect. For those that have gone through it, it's interesting because the binding portion of it has been the biggest stumper. It's been the hardest part for people. And I think that just might be the way that the tutorial kind of describes it, versus what you actually have to do. But again, I talk about it because the binding, being a master of binding, will allow you to help manipulate a lot of the situations, including the moods that your dragon's in, or some of the health that your dragon's in, as well as, like, when we talk about like the cook and the nutritionist, those things are going to go hand in hand, especially as you start to get further down on the road of developing the class of dragon that you are. And naturally, that knowledge is just going to also start to unveil the type of player that you are, or the type of rider that you are, because everybody needs binding, but to certain degrees, once you get to a certain level as your dragon, you might not pursue binding much further, and then the person that's pursued binding to the place of mastery is all of a sudden the gatekeeper to opening up new areas and finding new species, helping defeat baddies or other scenarios that are in the world. And so yeah, it's all definitely a part of it. But you can kind of see here, I'm just kind of showing you this mind meld, right? There's a lot of opportunities in here to be a lot of different things. We know no one's one thing or another, but these are the types of things that we are planning out because we do believe that the dragon progression and the progression of the rider and the trainer is paramount to, as those things come together, to really make a unique and just kind of an ongoing or evergreen experience as your dragon and you age and the group gets older. So yeah. Well, not yet. I'm gonna stop streaming here for a second. I'm gonna open it up to the audience because that's kind of that in a nutshell. I would like to ask how many of you would prefer to have like a guidebook for this? And it doesn't have to be specific as just much as knowing this is the type of thing that my dragon can come. Here's the classes, here's the subclasses. These are the things that are going to be required to do that, time frames, other types of things. Because I know a lot of you are also interested in a casual experience more so than a full-blown, caretaker. But I also know some of you want to go pretty far with that. So I'll let you guys think over some of those questions. I'm going to read some of these. I love it. Going to have to take a week off of work. Love it. Yeah, so if you haven't heard this before, Kiss of Catholic, I am just going to share this for you. It is very difficult. The reason why you start with an infant egg, because part of the imprint process and taking care of it and where it starts to get to know you is one of the easiest ways to get a dragon to recognize a human and actually be okay with it. If you're not familiar with the lore, so dragons, our dragons, the dragons that we've discovered in the realm, they have it's like a memory DNA, which means that the knowledge that has been passed down is innate in the next generation. So it becomes more instinct. And over the course of centuries and generations, dragons have just grown grossly mistrusting of humans. So the idea that you can bond with a dragon in the wild, an adult dragon, although it's possible, is a very difficult feat, right? So it's not going to be one of those things that you can just walk up to things. I mean, obviously, your level of mastery and binding elements, understanding, different types of resources and how to use those with binding and even with your dragon, right? Because everything is going to be that you're going to need your dragon for certain things. I will share this. One of the things that we're working on right now is like even in resource gathering, right? So your dragon, your mountain skulls at these ages are probably too young to smash open rock. That's why you're feeding them with a syringe, because just like a baby bird, it's like regurgitated food. They don't have the capacity to be able to digest boulders. So you need to like break that up. But you can start to train them to be able to sense or smell certain types of resources, which means that you'll be able to use your dragon, depending on how you train it, to go into the resource areas to help find certain types of minerals, other types of herbs, and things like that. And whether or not the dragon can actually mine it, or when it gets bigger and it can mine it, the mountain skull is a smashing beast. It's not a fine tool. And some of those herbs or some of those minerals may be in trace amounts. And so you don't want to just go smashing into an area as much as you use your dragon to start the excavation, but then you come in with finer tools to actually extract the resource the way to preserve it to be able to get the maximum amount of it. And this is what we're talking about, that the dragons and you are going to be synonymous to be able to, like, that combination is like imperative to the success of being able to move forward within sort of the overall experience. Relying on your dragon and your dragon relying on you, and using each other to the max, because you can go out and do things by yourselves um, without your dragon, but it becomes infinitely more complicated or difficult to be able to accomplish those tasks. Let's see. At least with some tips and tricks for what we know going into the realm would be nice. Guidebook. Okay. Yeah, we were looking at a book. This is one of the conversations that Amazon had with us. They're like, oh, we just have a book. You can check it out from the library, or you could purchase it. It would be something that you could have in like a leather bound special edition. Oh, Skyrider. You guys all have different names. So funny. If bonding is hard, how are new dragon species parlayed treated with to acquire eggs and form relationships? So the one thing about that, just kind of sharing on that question about how do you form new relationships with those dragons. So with the successful training of the Mountain Skull, that's supposed to enable the conversation or the communication that humans aren't bad, right? As that starts to permeate the dragon realm, there will be clutches of unborn dragons, that because none of the new dragons have hatched in centuries in the dragon realm across all breeds, right? So there is the opportunity to get a lot of different dragons and gain favor with them, but there is going to be a level of submission that's going to have to take place for a lot of these things, but the eggs will be able to be accessed because of that submission, if you will, or that trust that they're not going to eat you anymore. And so therefore they'll see if you can raise one of their dragons. That's kind of the lore of that scenario, which allows you to grow new dragons and bond with them. And that's why we start from the young age. Again, I'm not saying that it's not possible to go out there, but it is going to be, I would look at dragons in the realm as your enemy, right? Especially in the first couple, for the first little while of this experience. Every wild dragon that you come across, I would make sure that that's done very carefully. Those are going to be the things that you've probably been seeing the emails on the permadeath conversation. The one thing that we cannot control is that if you take your dragon into harm's way after you've been warned not to do it, right? As far as basic care and everything else, your dragon's not going to die. It's not going to die that way. And so I'm just like clarifying that again. This is the path that you will take. So okay. Let's see. I'm just reading through this. I don't want a guide. I don't want to know anything. I want to go completely blind. There's so many people that just want to go into the world and figure it out. But there's a lot to figure out. Like, as you can see, the stuff that we're talking about here, we've had a lot of time over the last 5 years. I will say it's been about 5 years since our Kickstarter, the original inception of this thing. And even when the developing wasn't moving along as fast as we wanted to do, we were always connecting the pieces between the mechanics and the story and the lore. And so, like, you know, I totally understand wanting to go into blind. And again, you know, if you do have an Oculus, get your hands on the let's get your hands on the demo that we have now, because without somebody telling you what to do, it is a little bit hard. But not to say that it's not impossible. But yeah, just the longer you'll be able to spend the time in it, and just kind of discovery will be helpful for sure. 100% basic guidebook pages for writer notes. Yeah, so speaking of the writer notes, it is one of the things that we are. It's why if you look at the app, when you press the mic option on the locate your dragon screen, it will actually record that and then it will store it into your notes. And part of that is to be able to have that keep. We are making it so that you can have tabs for different types of notes, journaling, and all those types of things. And then even, kind of that Shutterfly option where you can publish your own notes and send them to yourself. But yeah, notes is helpful. Let's see. If I find a whole cave of... It's funny, I've got this. I'm gonna move this out of the way. I got this heart. If I find a whole cave of dragons like that, I may be eaten. So the good thing is as of right now, you can't die as a writer, right? Those warnings are there to exist to protect your dragon. But as you will, like, one of the things to think about is that if you get eaten or if you get killed, it closes a portal for you to access, meaning that dragons start to stalk or guard those areas in increased numbers. And so again, this is just like all part of the strategy, if you will, in how you explore the world, what you plan on doing. If you plan on just running into the wild, it's going to have consequences. Actions have consequences, right? Obviously we want it to be fun, and that's the first and foremost which we're doing, because like having a pet dragon, there's so many options of really cool stuff to just be able to do with that dragon, and that's really what we're bringing to light here. But it did prompt us, and this is why you also saw on the website where you have like the pygmy is kind of more of like that gamer mentality, versus like the mountain skull purebreds are more of the advanced. And when I say that is because we've run several people through the simulation now, through the Dragon Realm, and the different types of people and what they when they put on an Oculus or a headset. It's interesting when you're in the pass through, right? And the dragon's in your space. It's a very different mentality than when you're in the Dragon Realm. Most people, when they go into the Dragon Realm and they're in full VR, they expect it to be a game. And so they treat it like a game. And what has happened is a lot of people have spent a lot of time just trying to get the dragon to not be afraid of them. But because they're treating it like a game and just running after it without giving the dragon any sort of a warm-up time to actually get to know you and what you're all about, whether you're a danger or something else, it created a very sharp learning curve, right? And especially when people came in there with a gamer mentality that is like, hey, I want to progress and I want to do it quickly. We started looking at it and say, I think we need a mode for this. And we thought it would be good to associate that with types of dragons, because the pygmies, they grow up fast. They're not a high stakes predator, right? So it's not like the mountain skull or some of the other breeds that we've talked about that require some care and attention because they grow up, they hatch, and they're just kind of on the go. Uh, and that one requires a lot less training than one that's going to be bonded with for extreme classes and elite level sort of access. But yeah, I'm just sharing that with you because a lot of the stuff that we had to put into it because a lot of people were confused about the level of difficulty that it was just to get the dragon to not be afraid of them. And you'll see it if you guys have an Oculus. If you don't, it's okay. These are going to be available, and we've just got upgrades that are going to be coming until the full release comes. But we'll probably keep the demo products and some of those things available, even for you guys to just play with, because they're really good training grounds to really understand what's going to be happening in the overall experience. All right. Well, we are coming up on that 50-minute mark, so I am going to open it up to you guys. If we've hit on anything that you want to know more about, please ask. Go ahead and hit it in the comments. I will try and answer that, and if not, you can go ahead and ask any other question that may be on your mind. Now that you've got me, I'm pinned down. I finally showed up for one of these. It's been a crazy couple of weeks, months, but man, we've got some. I'm really excited. Like I said, like the stuff that we've got cooking with AWS and even with Oculus, there's some really good stuff that's on the horizon. Who do we all have here today? I am looking. Why is it only showing one person? Do you guys have any idea what the barrier of entry be for the game money-wise? No, not at all. So if you look at what we've done on the pricing, so Sean, I'm gonna update that. If you look at what we've done on the pricing, $25, $20, I think actually for a pygmy right now, $69 for a clone, and the collections or the breedable dragons, which is the mountain skull, the purebred is the egg. So the egg is one of the most expensive parts that we're producing, and that's why the cost is there. We do think that premium price, it adds just a tremendous value, and especially the level of detail that we've poured into the eggs and the quality that we've poured into them. Even if the game sucked or the experience was not that great, which I don't think that that's the case, but the eggs still remain to be a very they're just that companion, like that physical piece of this thing that just can't be substituted. And so, it doesn't mean that we won't have cheaper eggs in the future. It doesn't mean that we might not have more of like an entry level that goes into it that you could just even buy in retail or something like that. Those are all part of the roadmap. But when you look at the price points of it, it's like, no, you can get a dragon from $20, $60, or even up into, where we are now on the mystery egg at the $220. And certain breeds might be more or less expensive as well, depending on how many available there are in the rarities. When we look at the current mountain skull, that $220, it's for such a limited run. If you really look at the price of a Gen 0 anything, especially that has a limited quantity of under 5,000 and they're physical, just take like Sideshow Collectibles. They do limited runs and they're not less than $500 a piece for those types of things. And so it just really depends on how you want to compare the pricing to. But when we look at the dragon again, There's if you want a game, there's a lot easier entry points, and those things will always be consistent. So we're going to keep those indefinitely at this point. But Sean, certainly hit back, like, if that doesn't answer your question, or if that's not even satisfying, it's like, well, it really should have, like, if like everything should have an egg, or at least the opportunity for it. Those are all things that we like to hear. So let's see. I currently own a Vive. If I wanted to play this game as soon as it's available, what system model would you recommend? So we are targeting the Quest. I will let you know that. And that's just because in order for us to survive, we have to be where the players are. And the amount of Quest 3s or Quest 2s and 3s that are in the world right now are just, the market's not even fair. And the reason why I'll share this with you is because I have a Vive as well, and that's where we started this project. When we did Half-Life Alyx, I was like, okay, now we're getting somewhere with what we were expecting with like the VR experiences. But even with the commoditization of the Quest, a lot of things, it hasn't really moved into that place. But the good news is the partners that we're coming into contact, this will be available on, we hope to have it available on Steam, because we are developing in the OpenXR platform, which means that we should be able to publish for even tethered VR. The only thing that's different is that I will say this. A lot of the systems, whether you have a Vive Pro that has the outside-in tracking, you don't get the same pass through, and with the AR capabilities that you have. And one of the other things that Quest has been able to do recently that's been incorporated into our update is that it's detecting objects via the mesh and the photogrammetry. So the LiDAR detector is now starting to understand what is a table without you labeling it, oh, that's a table, or that's a bed, or that's a chair. And I don't think that a lot of the Vives or the higher end I don't want to say the Oculus Rift, I don't think those things have them in because they just don't have the same LiDAR technology as well as the software that's running them. Like the MetaQuest Pro, and I'm really hoping to see our team put some stuff into the Apple Vision Pro in the next couple of months, because we just upgraded into a new version of Unreal, which allowed us to tap onto the latest version of the Quest. So my long story in this is that we are trying to make it available, but the easiest access to get to something is the Quest. I would say the Quest 3, because it's even between the Quest 2 and the Quest 3. The Quest 3 is just a superior product, like in and out. And it's super fun. So I'll give you that kind of a thing. Let's see, the Pygmy is significantly cheaper though. So Wintern 101, no, Silverwing, you said the Pygmy is significantly cheaper. I don't know if that was an answer to Sean's reply, but if you look at, again, just kind of following up on that, if you look at the purchase tab on our website, those 3 different versions of prices, they all give you a dragon. Every single one of them will get you a dragon. So there was supposed to in if there is a progress tree for DF. And when you say a progress tree, do you mean a roadmap? Like a release roadmap? Like on the site Trello. So we've been using Jira. I think I saw somebody on the Discord asking about that, as far as like our products and features and where they are on the roadmap and what's coming up next. If you're talking about something like that, we do plan on publishing a roadmap, especially as we get some of more. So there's a couple of things that are going on right now. We're still in the middle of the fundraising. We're locking down some of our development partners like AWS and Oculus and some of the other people there. And once those are solidified, then we should be able to publish that stuff. The only reason why we wouldn't is like if Oculus Publishing comes on and they are like, don't reveal any of it until these dates, because we're a secretive organization and we don't want anybody to know. Those are the only things that would prevent us from doing that. We can put together some loose sort of ideas of what that product roadmap looks like. But when I talk about the back end systems right now, again, the perpetual world, right? There is the Dragon, there's the Rider, there's the inventory management and AI management and just basically data arrangement. And on top of that, there's the multiplayer and the way that the networking works, as well as sort of that omni platform that we're marketing with, like the marketplace. And so a lot of those systems, they're still, man, it's so, you wouldn't believe how difficult a lot of those things are, even when we talk about multiplayer, because then we need a moderation software, depending on how many servers are kicked up, how many people are allowed in the server at any one time. If that's going to be a selection process, there's just a lot, right? But when we start to release, like, oh, you'll see the high level multiplayer is planned for 2024. Right? Maybe like later on in the year, but that's going to be more local based, right? Before it goes into a full MMO. And I'm hoping to actually keep it. And I'm sorry to just go off on this tangent. I'm hoping to keep like that multiplayer aspect selectable. Like you don't have to go into an open world every single time. You can be in your stable with your dragon doing a very like intimate session, and whether you're in your house and those types of things without necessarily opening up the can of worms. But that's another long answer on that. So let's see. Are we going to get a teaser trailer soon? Yes, I apologize for that. I haven't been able to finish that. I am hoping to dive back into that this week and hopefully get it up and running. I was going to show that for you guys last time. I probably could do it now. But last time we weren't getting any audio, so I don't know if I want to attempt that. Yes, trailer's coming. And I love the egg product and definitely agree with you said about the physical egg. Yes, my question was more geared towards if Bob down the street asks how much the game is. Again, like we tiered it. So if someone's a casual gamer or they're not a dragon lover, think of it this way. If you play D&D, you're probably buying an egg. If you play D&D several times, if you have a group that you play D&D with like on a weekly basis, you're probably buying an egg. So if Bob down the street plays D&D, it's $220, right? If they play Beat Saber, let's say, then it's $20. Like you get a pygmy. If they want a dragon that's a big one that they can ride, then it's it's $70, $69. I would just look at it that way, right? And yeah, I mean, we may have different pricing, especially as we get more and more people coming into it. But like, as we're still managing like the shipping of products, because even the Clone Dragon comes with the fob, right? The scale, and so there's just a lot that still goes into it. And so we're still a small team, so we're trying to make sure that hopefully people are kind of ratcheting up, because the idea is that if you get a pygmy, you're going to want a bigger dragon at some point. And then if you don't want to make the full commitment to like the advanced playing, then you can go to the clone and then once you decide that, then you can plunk down and go to the purebred. So I hope that answers the question. So we're at 7 o'clock, everybody. Thank you again for joining. It's always a pleasure. I love chatting with you guys, and certainly love sharing with it. And I'm excited to open up the spectrum, especially on our Discord, because you guys are great. So thank you again for supporting the project, and be willing to give your time and dollars and energy and everything else. So I can't thank you enough. And on that, I will bid you all adieu, and I will see you in Discord, or at least the mods will. All right, you guys. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.